All right, everybody. Well, welcome to Career Lab Wednesday. I am your host, George Miller, here with you for the next, we'll see, half an hour, 45 minutes or so. So I am with you almost every week of the year. I want you to know that you can engage in several different ways. So I invite all questions career related. You can ask things about resume, interviewing, relationships with your team or with your boss, or even what your purpose is in your career. How do you make it meaningful? Anything from technical things to expansive, heartfelt things. Whatever is on your heart, I invite your questions. There's a few ways that you can engage. You can jump in directly here on Zoom, or you can jump in to the comment section and type your questions there. And this is being live streamed, so if you want to remain anonymous. Just type your question in. We're looking at something today that I am really into seeing how to be effective in leadership. Um, I'm gonna make some points about this. First of all, I think it's incredibly helpful to consider that every single person is a leader. The question for each of us to ask ourselves is, what am I leading towards? So that can be a reset of how I think about leadership. Is right there from the beginning is we are all leading all the time. It's the question of, how am I leading? What am I leading towards? And so with the title of today's topic of we don't need another hero, your team doesn't need a hero, and why relational leadership outperforms command and control. So I want to make some distinctions. We absolutely need inspiration. We absolutely need high expectations. But that is different than controlling things. That's different than micromanaging. And so there are ways to engage with people that are more, that call to one's inner dreams. And that's what's powerful. If I am always trying to make somebody happy and not seeing what it has to do with me, and that it's all about somebody else, it's just their expectations, there's only so far I can do with that. There's only so far I can go, only so much I can do. I will burn out in some capacities, and I will not be as creative in coming up with solutions to things. So that is something to consider. It's kind of the difference between having a bunch of peons or lemmings, just doers, and having people who think creatively, who are able to flex and flow. And that is what I want each of you to think about. If you are currently leading a team, how do you communicate more effectively so that you're inspiring people to get the results that you want? And if you're on a team and you're interacting with your boss or manager, is how do you own your creativity in that environment? How can you take responsibility for what you can do? So hold those two things as we dive into some points about leadership. So one thing is think about perfectionism and always thinking that you need to have things exactly right. Now, of course, there's times where you've got to be on point. I mean, that is part of the nature of work. Is there's things to be very, very good at. But if I am only focused on that, and if I am demanding that from my team, I am often cutting off creativity. And it works better to have a high standard and say, here's what we need to achieve. And it's on you to figure out how to do it. See, when demanding perfection and needing to check everything, needing to micromanage, what often ends up happening is that teams become dependent on you. And so if you want everything a certain way, there is a price to pay for that. Now, there's times where that's going to be what makes sense. But for all you leaders listening to this, it's probably going to serve you to experiment with letting go of control on certain things and saying, putting out what it is that you need and allowing your team to generate and training that into people is, well, it's doable, but it takes intention on your part as a leader to set those expectations and to make sure people know it's okay to make mistakes. I'm going to move into vulnerability here in a moment, but I want to share a story from a client who is incredibly good at what they do. So she works in the medical field, and it's really important that she is on point with what she does. You know, people's well-being is at stake. So of course she's a perfectionist. Like, she needs to be. It's her job. However, sometimes she used to get lost in the communications with her team because they did not communicate exactly the way that she wanted them to. And she would conflate their style of communication with they're not doing a good job. So I can't trust them. And so now I need to get in and start micromanaging everything that they're doing because I didn't quite like how they communicated to me. And as she has looked at it more and gotten into the feelings happening underneath the battles at work, she's seeing that people communicate differently. Not everybody has the same personality style, same way of communicating that she does. And so it would trigger all kinds of anxiety for her. And so she would be feeling afraid and then real quickly start feeling hurt and angry. And then she would communicate with the anger and say, okay, no, I need you to tell me this, 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 and this, and say it this way. And her team's like, wait, what? Like, we just did everything that you asked for. And now you're wanting us to say it this exact way. And this is really jarring. And so resentment would build up. And so what she has worked on is allowing herself, first of all, just to feel the hurt, to understand that she feels hurt in these communications. That was step number one. And then to look at the fear underneath that of like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid that that my clients are not going to be served, that I'm going to get into legal trouble, all this stuff. But then, and to see that a lot of those fears were really coming from earlier in her life, where she would again conflate the fear that she's feeling in that moment with the past, and then think that she needs to quickly work it through and demand that things are exactly the way that she wants it in the communications. And we're all different. We all have different ways of communicating. And so it wasn't working. Now, as she learned that there's other communication styles, and as she learned to accept that she's feeling hurt and afraid underneath the irritation, she doesn't push that off on her team as much now. She doesn't push off the hurt and the fear. She's now learning to say, oh, I'm concerned. I feel afraid that this isn't happening. And as she does that, then her team can rise to the occasion and say, oh, yep, all of that was handled. And this is how I communicated it. And now they're even receptive and saying, okay, I understand that the way I communicated it didn't land for you. And they're in relationship. But it took her as the leader of the team to acknowledge the vulnerability that she has in those interactions. Because when she wouldn't acknowledge the vulnerability, she just kept going at things tactically and saying, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And it was never really enough. It was never really getting through her, even when people tried. And then they would say, God, I've tried all this stuff and I'm still not getting through. Like, in their sense, it was like, geez, I'm working for a tyrant here. And to understand with that kind of, commanding and controlling, there's a huge amount of fear underneath there. So as she has been able to allow herself to experience that anxiety instead of kind of punishing other people for it, her team is more receptive and can communicate. And that's the thing is this is so often it comes from the top, She's the leader. She has to take the risks, the interpersonal risks first. And when she does that, it sets the tone for her team. So again, leadership is way more effective when relational. It's way more sustainable, and in the long run gets better results. So I've shared a little bit now about this topic of approaching leadership from a place of building relationship as opposed to commanding and controlling everybody. Now, I want to invite anybody who's joining in to ask any questions that are on your heart. You can stay on this topic, or you can ask something completely unrelated. Totally fine with me. I love fielding questions, and I will probably tie it back to emotional intelligence because that's what I do. But you can engage a few ways. You're welcome to come off mute if you want. If you want to remain anonymous, type your questions into the chat or into the comment section, and I will do my best to coach and help guide through the comment section and through the chat. So if you've got any questions on your heart, anything career related is welcome here. So as you are coming up with some questions, I want to throw into the chat and the comments a way that you can learn different personality styles. Now, there's all kinds of tools for this. I feel like uh, every coach and company has a different personality assessment. The one that I'm sharing with you is based on a lot of others. And the focus of it is to learn how to communicate with other personality styles. So it's called the Care Profile. Mentor of mine developed it and developed it for hairstylists, so that hairstylists, when they've got a new client in the chair, they're able to quickly assess that personality style and to change that communication. So I was sharing about one of my clients who, has high standards, has to, and needs to be a perfectionist in many ways. And so, for her, it's been helpful for her to see, oh, I'm an analyzer regulator. I care about the details to a great extent, and I want to get results. Okay, cool. Now, the people on my team, a lot of them are cooperators. And okay, so they are conflict adverse. They're not even going to tell me in the moment with me if what I'm saying to them isn't making sense. So, okay, when things aren't getting done the way that I want them to get done, and people are not being direct with me, oh, that's because they communicate differently than I do. And so it's going to be more helpful for me to say, I'm concerned that we're not getting this, and this addressed. Help me make sure that this is being handled. Because like to a cooperator, that's like, oh, I get to help. Yay. so we all have different ways of locking on to what's important. Hey, welcome. Good to see you, Tony. Hey, Tony, what questions do you got, man?
Oh, I'm doing multiple things at this moment.
Understood.
Um, like, I mean, this presentation has to do with personality styles and communicating to different personality styles, as you said. Um, I don't know if this really falls under that umbrella or not. Um, I I don't know if this is a different personality style. Since I've been applying for jobs since October, it's been a whole different world for me for interviewing, and not just interviewing, but setting up interviews and just the whole shabam, because I guess I'm in a different level of a career. And
Okay.
so like I'm used to entry level, and I'm used to applying for teaching positions,
Okay.
and and what I'm doing now, applying for positions that are at the salary range that they are. I guess you could call it like executive level. I hate to sound like I'm bragging, but that's what I've read. Um, and so like I'm just kind of been lost on the personality style, I guess, or
Okay.
the type
So
of interviewing at
you're coming
this
from
higher level.
education.
What's that?
You're coming from education and teaching.
That, and I did get a position as a entry level QA software, and then
Got
now the type of interviewing that I'm doing is not entry level at all, and I think I've been messing up because I don't know the criteria, I don't know the formalities for
Okay. Oh,
how
this
the
is
hiring
awesome.
is
No, this is a fantastic question. What I
at.
really appreciate about you jumping on like this and sharing is well, for everybody who's listening in, I want you to put yourself in Tony's shoes and look at how what we're going to dive into applies to you, because we can be at all different levels in our career. You might be senior, you might just be starting out, the principles that we're going to talk about apply to everything because this is about relationship. And so when I look at emotional intelligence, personality styles, and relationship building, now I can apply that whether this is I'm applying for my first job ever, whether I'm at a career transition like Tony is, or whether I am looking at retirement or saying, do I want to start my own company or do I want to continue on in corporate America? We are looking at this relationally. Okay, so remember, leadership, we're all leaders, we're all leading and influencing all the time. It's a matter of how are we leading and towards what are we leading? And then that the most important thing is the relationship. Was it Socrates who said truth is relational? So we get to truth by relationship. So Tony, so
Yeah.
you are transitioning and you have experience interviewing in one kind of way. Now you want to learn more interview skills that will have you be more effective in the interviews you're doing. I'm on the same page with you?
Yeah. And like for instance, I found out that when you're applying for higher level jobs, it's not as common or not it may be more frowned upon for doing the initial week and a half follow up. Yeah, I know that sounds weird, but I found that for higher level jobs, they some recruiters, more recruiters than in entry level jobs, seem to want you to just sit and wait and not do the follow ups. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That was my
Wait. But
guess from
how long has it been since you? How long have you been looking for your next job?
since October, so almost a year now.
It I'm going to quickly assess your personality. Do you make decisions based on kind of group consensus and how the social feeling of a group is, or do you make decisions based on having all the correct details, making sure everything is perfect, or do you make decisions based on getting results, just pushing things through, or do you make decisions based on what's exciting and fun?
I mean, it matters on the decision to be made, obviously. But I usually get the feedback from the team or the group that I'm working with to ensure that they have what they want.
Okay, I'm going with cooperator analyzer. So
Okay.
you are conflict adverse, is my guess,
Sure.
and you kind of defer and will try to do things the right way at sometimes at your own expense, and so you'll hesitate, etc. Does that kind of land?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I usually try to make the team happy and the
Okay,
person happy. Yeah.
so for the positions that you're applying for, um I don't even think it has to do with hearing back in a week and a half. If you don't hear back, like, I mean, you've been at this now for almost a year.
Yeah.
Waiting to hear back has not worked for you.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's just that, but yeah. Okay.
But that kind of mindset. So what you want to do when you're interviewing is you want to interview them.
Yeah, I've
You
heard this before. Yeah,
Mhm.
part of the interview is the back and forth. You know,
Yep. How's that going for you?
I usually don't have a lot to request on their end. I usually don't have like I'm usually yeah, like you said, pretty easy going.
So
I do the research with the company and I do the research with the person that is interviewing me. So if there is a concern from the research that I do, then I can bring that up. more often than not, I find that the company and the person I'm talking to is fine for me because I'm pretty versatile and easygoing with that.
But why do you think that you're not getting hired?
I have no idea. It might be because I'm not interviewing as well as I could. Um,
And what would have you interview better?
Showing my personality better. Like,
What
I've been too cold and robotic in the past with the interviews.
okay. So what does showing your personality look like?
Oh, I like the Cubs. I enjoy living in Chicago. My personality involves me like laughing and playfully having banter in a professional way. Um, the reason that I'm speaking on this with any type of experience is that's what I successfully did with my last interview where I hadn't done that before. But
Uh-huh.
my main concern was like the lack of experience I have with higher level executive level uh, interviewing. Um, I
What do
didn't.
you what do
Sorry.
you feel when you're or even just as you're talking about it right now, what are your core feelings about executive level interviewing?
Yeah, there's some anxiety. I'm not used to applying for jobs with high salaries. I don't feel necessarily that I'm just always surprised when I'm interviewing for a job with a really good salary. It's a little intimidating. If the job is not that great, then I it's not that I don't care, but it's less anxiety prone when the job isn't super awesome. It's easier to apply for jobs that are lower level, but
Easier for to apply for
it's
jobs.
easier to apply for jobs that are lower level.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how here's another thing then. So, what's your time frame? Like when do you really have to get your next job by?
I have a couple part-time jobs that are getting me by, so there's really no like time constraint. Um, I mean,
Okay, so this is for your personal gratification to
I'm
continue
not.
development.
I mean, like the jobs that I'm currently working do not pay great, so there is like a need for my career to get back on track. It's just I am capable of barely surviving and getting by until then. So I don't have like a do or die time frame, but at the same time, like I can't continue working these part-time jobs for the rest of my life. That would suck. So
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I got a hunch. Now, can I take some risks with you?
Okay.
What I'm hearing is I'm not worth it.
Either I don't know. Yeah, it's not. Uh, yeah, that seemed. I don't like to agree with that, but that's just part of the feeling. I
So
also
this is
I know better than to dress like this on the interview. Just so you know.
cool, cool, cool. Yep. And this is an important teaching moment just for anybody, which is we tend to conflate, put together limiting beliefs and feelings. Now, I have been coaching and facilitating emotional intelligence groups for like 10 years. And in some of these groups, I have students who have been working on this for years. And for myself, when I'm in an argument with my wife, I say inaccurate shit like, oh, I feel like I'm not good enough, or I feel like you don't think I'm. And that right there is a trap. It's an onboard to drama and irresponsible communication. And we are so good at doing this that it's really something to look at. So, my point here, Tony, is that You were not alone in this. This is incredibly common, and it's important to look at for us to communicate more powerfully. So what I heard you say a few minutes ago is something like, I feel I'm intimidated, or I feel like I this is at another level, and I don't feel I can't remember your exact words. And so what I'm teasing out here is when I feel afraid because I'm going for the next level up, when I feel afraid, I start having beliefs like I'm not enough. I don't really matter. Somebody else here matters more than me. And those beliefs start coming up, and then I start communicating somewhat unconsciously. I start saying that out, saying, communicating, I don't know that I'm enough. I might not be the right for this. And it's kind of unconscious, and it's feeling. And as I do that, I'm creating that self-fulfilling prophecy. So I could be talking to an interviewer who's like, man, on paper, George has got everything that we need. But there was something there's just this, I got a sense in my body that George doesn't think he's enough. And then, again, this is probably unconscious. And so, okay, I'm going to just not follow up, or I'm going to go with this other person. See, humans, as much as everybody says be logical about stuff, we are mostly we're getting all of our data from our feelings. Mm-hmm. And so even if I think I'm being logical, I'm not really. It takes a lot to be logical. It takes like a team of people saying, no, George, do this. We have all the data. You got to just take this step. And anyway, so what you're bringing in here, Tony, is really cool. I really appreciate this, because this applies for everybody in any stage of interviewing or any kind of client communication, is catching what I'm actually feeling and what the limiting beliefs are that are coming up from that. And so do you have an interview that you've got coming up, or one that you had recently?
This past Monday, I had an interview, and it was the first interview that I knew right away that I did really well on.
Uh-huh.
And then I got feedback yesterday, the day after the interview, that I did in fact bring, like, the feedback was I brought really good energy, and that I was very insightful, and that they had nothing negative to say. It was like my first interview that I knew I did well on, and I got the feedback that I did well on it. And yeah, I
Okay.
think you're onto something here. At no point in that interview did I feel intimidated or overwhelmed with the position. Um, yeah, no, I didn't know you're gonna like cut down to the core of my emotions. Sorry, I almost cursed.
No, you're
You're like
welcome
going
to curse.
right for the middle, George. Or like, let me get you down to the core. Like, yeah, this is. But you're accurate. You need to like kind of not believe that you're inferior in any way for of the position. It's just a job, and they're just people. And I don't.
That's really helpful, Tony. But I want to go a level deep now that we're already
I
deep.
don't want to go any deeper. I'm good. I think we
No,
got deep
okay.
enough.
But this, we're thank you for going this deep. Not going any deeper, but another way of looking at it and applying it is, and this is where maybe if you are a cooperator, where this is a really helpful trick,
Yeah.
is to assume that if I'm feeling a certain kind of anxiousness in an interview, that it's data about the company, and to actually flip that anxiety and put it back on them.
I don't want to make my interviewer anxious.
Correct. Yeah, yeah, I get that. Yeah, don't want to make them anxious, but let's fine tune it. Let's. How about this? I'll share an example. A client of mine was interviewing, and there was a company that they were interviewing at, and as we dug into it, I just said, "Look, at this point, you know how companies work. What is it that they are trying to hide?" And she was quickly able to say, "Oh, if they're trying to hide anything, it's this, this, and this, and these teams are probably not communicating as well as they could." And then I said, "Okay, and how much of that relationship dynamic, how painful is that going to be for you? How much is that going to be a pain in your head?" And she said, "Oh my gosh, it could be so bad that I don't even want to work there." I was like, "Okay." So now when you're in the interview, what are you going to ask to help get clarity about this dynamic that you anticipate is happening in this company? And she came up with some real quick bottom line questions. And she was like, and if they respond in any of these kinds of ways, I'm going to understand that what they're saying the job is there's the logistics of it, but there's this whole other emotional component that they're not talking about. And if they're not even going to acknowledge any of that, then I actually know I don't want to work here. And I can save myself time and I can save them time. And so that was the way that she put the anxiety back on them in a way that was responsible, and actually had them in the interview then say, "Oh, that's a great question. You know what? I can't answer that, but I think in the next round, maybe we can address that." So right there, then she's now getting the affirmation of, okay, they are getting the data that they are a team that looks like they're working on this. This might be a place I want to. We'll see how the next interview goes. So Tony, what do you make of that? Like that way of using anxiety in a relationship responsibly?
Yeah, asking them challenging questions that can kind of put you in a more of an emotional driver's seat, I guess. By being just uh, being open to asking challenging questions can kind of help me, feel less, small. I guess is the best way to word it. Less
Yeah.
small compared to the position I'm applying for. Yeah, I mean, yeah, realizing that the company and the position is going to have its own faults outside of your own can help me ask those questions to flush that out, and then can help me feel less anxious and nervous about a position that I think is so great when it's not so great. Just like any other position, it's going to have problems.
Yes.
You like that?
Yes. Oh, totally, totally, totally. I'm so glad you're saying that. That
Yeah.
I want to underline this point, Tony, for everybody who's listening in. This is so important, and this is the whole point. It's a relationship. It's a relationship with the company, a relationship with the people at the company. And if I'm walking in there like, "Oh, this place is so great, I just hope that they'll think enough of me that they would bring me on." That is, if it does work, it's going to set me up horribly in the company, because if it's
They'd
a
walk all
oh,
over you and
cool,
take advantage of you.
okay, yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yep,
Is that where you're going? Sorry, I'm not trying to
no, no, no,
finish
no,
your words for you. Sorry.
no, no, Tony, I okay, will you do a reframe right there? and say, oh, wow, I just helped George finish a thought.
Didn't know I was going to be doing. I didn't know I'd be the center of attention for this long, George. I just thought I'd pop on and say hi. Here I
Okay.
am,
All right. All
20
right.
minutes in.
Fantastic. So in even right now, then, and we're getting to a closing point here, but how about with me? You would say that was good, but George, I jumped on here and I am ready to be done. And thank you for your time and attention here for a little bit. And um, you can go ahead and thank me and give me a round of applause for jumping
Thanks,
in
George.
unknowingly.
Thank you,
And
George.
I am now transitioning, George.
Thanks, George. Sorry. Yeah, I guess you're right. I got to work on being. Yeah, there's work I clearly need to do on. Yeah, being shy and not abrasive enough, or not abrasive is a very wrong word, but forward enough. Yeah.
You're
Uh,
getting it. Tony, let's talk more. But I'm gonna start signing off here. I do have a coaching session coming up at the end of the hour, and I'm gonna just make some points. Thank you again for your playfulness and willingness to jump in and engage.
okay.
If you want, there is that personality assessment that can be helpful in the interview process. I want to make another point here about what we were just talking about, which is, even if I go into an interview and I have a bunch of challenging questions, I don't even necessarily need to ask those questions. It will help me energetically just to have the questions there, just to have practiced asking the questions, just to get in that mindset. That will have me engaging with whatever I'm saying with a different energy. And so it can be so helpful. It's just like with sports. You run drills. Okay, yeah. So with baseball, I played basketball, but I know a little bit about baseball from reading Brothers K. My favorite. It's like the American version of Brothers Karamazov. Um, and if you're practicing with baseball, you run drills. My wife plays, so I see her. They are practicing throwing to first base. You just do it. You got to run through that so that you get used to that motion, so that you don't have to think about it. So you don't have to think about the moves when it's happening in the game. Same thing with interviewing. You come up with really challenging questions, you practice asking those questions, and then when you're in the interview, you don't need to ask the questions. Maybe you'll ask one or two and you can softball them, but your energy is different. And that can be such a helpful thing to do. So for everybody listening in, if you've got interviews coming up, just test it out, have fun with it, let yourself play, and that will get your body in the mode. Oh, and I love this example. Sian Bellick wrote about it. I refer to her all the time when interviewing. It's so much better to go for a run or do something physical the morning of the interview instead of trying to cram in any more research or anything else, because it gets your body, which is the throne of your mind. It gets you in good shape to be flexible and to move with stuff. So those are just some fun tips and tricks with interviewing. All right. So again, around this whole topic, leadership is relational. When I'm interviewing, I'm leading in that relationship. When I am networking, I'm leading in terms of how I'm connecting with people. And so often a powerful tool is listening. Asking a powerful question and then shutting up and practicing the power of silence. And so for, If you've got a team that you are developing, a really good thing to do is to ask a question. I thought I made these instructions clear. I probably didn't. Help me understand what we could do better going forward. And that's gonna, for a lot of people, that'll just have a flood of anxiety come up in the body of just like, wait, I'm so used to, wait, I need to control and say, and yeah. And so just asking a question, practicing the power of silence, letting there be a moment, uh, is a really good thing to practice. You can practice it with friends, practice it with your kids, practice it, practice using the power of silence in relationship with others. I mean, I've been doing this work for a long time, and I continue practicing this every day with my wife of shutting up a little bit and really listening to what's going on. Okay, well, everybody, thank you for joining in. And again, huge thank you to Tony, who had no idea what he was getting himself into today. Thank you, Tony. And I hope to connect more soon. And for everybody else listening in, you can always set up a 15-20 minute call with me. Often I'm able to just help you move forward on something or get clarity about a direction you're going. And if a coaching relationship is something that you want and makes sense for where you're at, we could discuss that as well. All right, everybody. Until next time.
Thanks, George. I appreciate the help, George.
You're welcome, Tony. Thank you. Blessings. Let me know how it goes. Take care, everybody.
Thanks again.